At present, mankind is undergoing an evolutionary crisis in which is concealed a choice of its destiny. These words, written by Sri Aurobindo more than 100 years ago, are clearly obvious to all of us today. It's in our face. It's on the TV, it's in the papers, the pollution, the corruption, the collapse of banks. It's so big, this crisis is so overwhelming. How do we deal with it? What can we do about it? What do we do about it? Then the realization comes. The key is within. A change of consciousness, a change to a new being. We have to become something else. And there's a place on earth dedicated to this transformation. That place is called Auroville. Auroville is meant for that, only for that.
There should be somewhere on earth a place which no nation could claim as its own, where all human beings of goodwill who have a sincere aspiration could live freely as citizens of the world and obey one single authority, that of the Supreme Truth. Of peace, concord, and harmony, where all the fighting instincts of man would be used exclusively to conquer the causes of his sufferings and miseries, to surmount his weaknesses and ignorance, to triumph over his limitations and incapacities. Place where the needs of the spirit and the concern for progress would take precedence over the satisfaction of desires and passions, the search for pleasure and material enjoyment.
In this place, children would be able to grow and develop integrally without losing contact with their souls. Education would be given, not for passing examinations or obtaining certificates and posts, but to enrich existing faculties and bring forth new ones.
In this place, titles and positions would be replaced by opportunities to serve and organize. The bodily needs of each one would be equally provided for, and intellectual, moral, and spiritual superiority would be expressed in the general organization, not by an increase in the pleasures and powers of life, but by increased duties and responsibilities. Beauty, in all its artistic forms, painting, sculpture, music, literature, would be equally accessible to all. The ability to share in the joy it brings would be limited only by the capacities of each one, and not by social and financial position. For, in this ideal place, money would no longer be the sovereign lord. Individual worth would have a far greater importance than that of material wealth and social standing. There, work would not be a way to earn one's living, but a way to express oneself and to develop one's capacities and possibilities, while being of service to the community as a whole, which, for its own part, would provide for each individual's subsistence and sphere of action. In short, It would be a place where human relationships, which are normally based almost exclusively on competition and strife, would be replaced by relationships of emulation in doing well, of collaboration and real brotherhood.
The text you just heard was written by the mother. That was the dream of an ideal society governed by the soul. In a corner of South India, in a place called Auroville, a handful of people are pursuing this dream.
People sometimes come to Auroville and don't understand what's happening. They don't understand why we haven't achieved the utopia that we dreamt of 44 years ago. And that's understandable that they don't understand. But I don't think it's important that we haven't achieved anything to that level. I think what is important is that we're waking up every morning and trying.
Auroville is named after Sri Aurobindo, the great poet and revolutionary seer of modern India.
It is not so easy to speak about Sri Aurobindo because many people would know that he is a famous revolutionary in India. He did political work, and then he became a great scholar and a great sage. But that's to miss the whole point about Sri Aurobindo, because Sri Aurobindo is something quite unique in the history of evolution, and he has done something that nobody else up to this point has ever done. What Sri Aurobindo did was bring together all the intellectual and spiritual traditions of the world into a single harmony or synthesis. But not only that, also Eastern and Western thought, because Sri Aurobindo was educated in the West, but he was from the East. So in one man you have this complete synthesis. And so out of that, and out of the depth of his own personal spiritual experience, you have the emergence of a whole new, you could call it a philosophy. I wouldn't call it a teaching, really. It's more an action.
What Sri Aurobindo's message is to try to change the conditions of the world without changing consciousness is a chimera. It is an impossibility.
The mother was the spiritual companion of Sri Aurobindo. Born in France, she came to Pondicherry to work with him and be at his side.
I think I have never met any other human being who gave me the same feeling, same impression. Just like to open a door on something infinite. I don't know how to express.
Comment c'était quand mère était là? Pour moi, si tu veux, c'était comme quand tu es allé la voir dans sa chambre, non? Alors, quand tu es dans sa chambre, tu rentrais dans un espace très spécial, quoi, qui était comme une quatrième dimension. Tu vois, c'était comme une quatrième dimension. Le bruit changeait, le volume changeait, t'entendais les... Tu rentrais, mais c'était très concret en fin de compte. C'était une atmosphère, mais c'était très doux. C'était quelque chose de très fort, de très concret. En même temps, de très doux qui t'enveloppait et qui te prenait. Et tu rentrais dans un espace, puis avec mère au centre, avec cette force qui était dégagée, cet amour qui était dégagé, cette présence qui était là, une présence extraordinaire.
Yeah, you just felt uniquely loved. That's something. It's not very often.
The adventure started in 1968 when the mother founded Auroville.
Salut d'Auroville à tous les hommes de bonne volonté. Sont conviés à Auroville tous ceux qui ont soif de progrès et aspirent à une vie plus haute et plus vraie.
For more than 40 years, people from all over the world, inspired by the dream, have been coming to participate in the endeavor.
Mr. Tata said, here is one old lady sitting on one room. She says something and young people of the world are coming here. He said, it's a miracle.
The mother guided the beginnings of Auroville till her passing in 1973. Auroville is meant to be a city where a collective experiment takes place.
Why a city?
Because it has to be of a certain size. The objective is not city, the means is a city. So the idea is to have a place where all kinds of activity are there so that they can all be taken up as a field of yoga.
This is the architectural representation of the galaxy concept as interpreted by Roger based on Mother's vision. It comprises of 4 zones: the residential zone, which is on the south, then you have the cultural zone, the industrial zone, and the international zone. In the center, around the Park of Peace, we have the administrative centers and the educational zone. The whole city also has a green belt around it. The Matra Mandir sits in the center of the Peace area, which is the Matra Mandir Gardens and the lake.
The mother conceived the Matri Mandir as a place for Aurovillians to try and find their true being.
Put at the center something which has no practical use, and we say it's the soul of the city, it has a meaning. It means, yes, the soul is the center.
Around this center, a city is progressively taking shape. More than 2,300 people from 51 countries live and work there.
The aim of this experiment is to realize human unity, and this means a deep inner search.
How do you understand human unity?
Well, personally, it would be seeing the divine in everyone, in everything. That would be, for me, a unity consciousness, and that would lead to a life that expressed unity. I think many of the ideas we have about unity are too small and too old, and they brought us here, and that served a function. but we need to go further now.
To live in Auroville means to do the yoga of work, karma yoga. It is in the work done as an offering to the divine, said the mother, that the consciousness develops best. So here, work has a very special meaning and quality.
To try to do one's own job the best one can, regardless of maintenance, not maintenance, money or not money, whether they are sufficient or not. That is a second issue. The main issue in Auroville, one should do the job that one has decided to do the best he can, with the best attitude, the right attitude, proper attitude. Not to do it so that I am appreciated for the job that I'm doing, which is very difficult.
The intention isn't to earn money solely for yourself, it's to create something beautiful, to represent something higher and truer. The people that are working in waste, for example, like myself, aren't doing it to earn money. So my effort, my attention, the consciousness that I put into my work is totally different. It's not based on monetary reward, where I leave at 5 o'clock and I'm done and I get my salary and I'm finished.
I think the thing that people have in common here is that everyone is trying to do their best in everything they do. And they put a lot of attention and intention and a lot of consciousness in everything they do.
I think one of the main things I learned here was to enjoy learning.
There is no aspect of life that should not be explored and transformed by the inner quest. Auroville is a place for experiments, study, research. Research into new types of education, governance, and even that hardest knot of all, the economy.
So there is no single person owning any piece of land or piece of property or building. So there is an ownership but of the collective, but not of a private person. And this ownership is held on behalf of Auroville, for the purpose of Auroville. We can experience the joy and liberation of no personal possession. But it is up to us eventually.
The fact that many Tamil people from the villages around have joined Auroville represents a deep social experiment in what Sri Aurobindo called a voluntary fusion of cultures.
Before Auroville came, their consciousness was limited, so limited. They had no conception of the world around, beyond perhaps some 20 kilometers. Now they know that the world is vast thing, so many different people live with different cultures and all that, that some sort of world consciousness they have, even uneducated villager around.
உன்னை காண
Research also is conducted in the more technical approaches to the way we live, such as agriculture, alternative sources of energy, wastewater treatment plants, water purification systems, etc. In afforestation, a particular area of interest is research into the indigenous forest of this part of South India.
I think Auroville, first of all, has rediscovered all the knowledge connected with the indigenous forest, and has made a census of all the trees. And we have been trying to educate people to use those trees for their garden or for their project, because given that they belong here, they are more suited to this climate.
Auroville is a very practical place. It's not a theoretical place. One can write a wonderful book about how the world should be or all of that, but then how to live it. So Auroville is what we call a living laboratory or living example. So that's where Auroville has its relevance, as something living and something happening in the moment with all kinds of people working together toward a common goal.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind laid low, earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone.
The search for beauty is very much part of the development towards a more conscious society.
The role of beauty is to lift up our soul.
If there is no beauty, there is no life for me.
Je ne sais pas, c'est comme dans la nature, quand tu vois quelque chose de très beau dans la nature, c'est quelque chose qui te soulève en nous, qui t'ouvre, non? Qui te rend joyeux. Non?
One should not imagine Auroville to be a kind of small paradise only concerned with itself. Auroville works actively for the welfare of many villagers around.
Auroville has developed a parallel educational program for people from the villages around Auroville. There are schools which are actually outside of Auroville premises, which is catering to 4,000 children, and within Auroville we have schools for 500 children.
The development of Auroville can never be separated from the development of the nearby villages.
Don't be too expensive there.
Most of the people employed in Auroville have developed in a way they could not have done elsewhere.
When I came here to work, that time I was doing the binding work only. After I improved, now I am managing everything here. For the example, getting orders, doing the estimate, to work for our workers and everything. I am sure if I went outside, I could not improve this much, I feel.
Mother described Auroville as the city the earth needs. This can be understood at different levels.
The context of Auroville is that we're a small place. It's easy to experiment different things. It's easy to try new things. And this is desperately what the world needs. It needs new direction. It needs new inspiration.
What does it mean for you, the city the earth needs?
I understand it as a society of people that are committed to excellence in all realms.
It is a noble experiment where for the first time people from all over the world consciously try and create a society that can sustain itself sufficiently long so that this transformation can actually happen.
A noble experiment, but a challenging one.
I think the difficulties are there at all different levels.
It's an extraordinary challenge. It's something that seems to go so much beyond certain instincts even that we have as humans to thrive through conflict, that finally it's really like turning everything upside down.
Over the years, Auroville has faced many different problems, material and otherwise. But it is a testimony to the spirit of Auroville that most Aurovillians see the greatest challenge facing them today in terms of inner progress.
What's the biggest challenge in front of Auroville today?
I think it's letting go of old forms. I think it's having the courage to look ahead and being bold.
Working together.
Trust each other.
Surrender.
To dare the dream. We are not daring to dare the dream.
When we were children, we had to sing every morning at school with a nice jolly marching tune, a prayer by the mother called "Make of Us the Hero Warriors." Make of us the hero warriors we aspire to become. May we fight successfully the great battle of the future that seeks to be born against the past, that seeks to endure, so that the new things may manifest and we be ready to receive them.
Charte d'Auroville. Auroville n'appartient à personne en particulier. Auroville appartient à toute l'humanité dans son ensemble. Mais pour séjourner à Auroville, il faut être le serviteur volontaire de la conscience divine. Auroville sera le lieu de l'éducation perpétuelle, du progrès constant et d'une jeunesse qui ne vieillit point. Auroville veut être le pont entre le passé et l'avenir, profitant de toutes les découvertes extérieures et intérieures. Elle veut hardiment s'élancer vers les réalisations futures. Auroville sera le lieu des recherches matérielles et spirituelles pour donner un corps vivant à une unité humaine concrète.